you amazing people out there, and welcome to the Amazing Action Comics podcast, where we are all about independent comics. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
It is going, bro. It is going. How are you?
I'm good. I'm on a weird little delay here. I don't know if you're seeing that. I'm kind of like...
It is. It's like you're in the Matrix. There's a glitch.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Bear
with your Wi-Fi. Is there a garbage truck passing by?
No. There's no truck accidents this time.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So guys, welcome to another episode of the Amazing Action Comics podcast. This is the Indie Comic Review. This is where John and I take some books off the shelf, give our 2 cents and recommendations for whatever books we read this week. But before we get there, we've got some news for the week. John doesn't have any, but I do. So first things first. Yeah! Happy birthday! So, for those of you guys who don't know...
Wow, that audience is fantastic. Wow, that audience. You guys are great. Thank you.
For those of you guys who don't know, John is Benjamin Button, so he actually turned 2 today.
So actually, it's really funny because today, February 1st, is actually my brother's birthday, my other brother, not what do we call him, Frank, the one who was complaining about calling me Phil. Yes. My other brother, whose real name is David, turned 60 today. We'll call him Fred today.
Fred. Okay.
My other brother we call Frank is actually Jim. So my brother David's birthday is today. My birthday was January 30th. So thank you for that. That was very nice. It was lovely. I got some good comic cred on my birthday too, because I got Christian Bale and Gene Hackman. Right, he played Lex Luthor. Christian Bale played Batman. I have, and then of course, from what I've heard, one of the people who their books I'm reviewing, their birthday is also the same day as mine.
There you go.
So we'll get to that.
Is Gene Hackman still alive?
Gene Hackman is still alive. He is retired from acting, but he's still very much alive at this point.
Oh, I loved him, man. He was good.
Me and my friend always used to say he makes any movie just that much better by being in it.
Yeah, and
he's made some really good movies.
Far the best Lex.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. I mean, a little goofy, but there was a little bit of that menace. I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
But you could see it like coming out sometimes too, which is crazy. Like he didn't care at all.
My favorite bit of his though is in the first Superman movie. He's in his underground lair. Superman, finds it and he pushes that big hydraulic door in or whatever, right, to enter Lex's lair. And Hackman's just sitting behind the desk and he goes, "It's open. Come in."
It was sarcasm and shit. Just you know why? Because he just knew he had an ace up his sleeve all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When it came to Superman. So yeah. All right. Well, happy birthday, bro.
Thank you very much, man. Yeah. 49. 49,
bro. Yeah, we're getting up there. All right. In other news,
I'm gonna get my hair cut after this. I'm gonna my false sense of youth is gonna go away. I'm gonna cut my hair.
Dude,
we're gonna see what's looking.
Well, at least it's not turning gray yet. So
there's there. I take a short to it.
All right. In other news, guys, we did go live today. Yes. So Justin Bart's the creator and writer of Project Shatterbreed. And the other half of Amazing Action Comics. Really excited to get this second volume off and running. The first volume consisted of 5 issues, which we've had done for quite some time. And then now we're into the second volume, which is continuing, obviously, off the first one. And we're already up to the 3rd issue of the second volume. So we're really excited. So we're kicking off the issue number 1. For those of you guys that haven't had an opportunity to read Project Shatterbreed, within this crowdfunding campaign, there's options to catch up. So we do have a trade of the first volume that will be included with the first issue of the second volume. And if you don't want to, you don't need to. It's a great jumping on point. We have a really great summary at the very beginning of this issue. This one's quite special because we're doing something for the launch that we're not doing for the direct market. So we're doing like a supersize. It has like the script in it, sketches, and some really cool, fun stuff that we're doing just for this crowdfunding campaign. And for those of you guys that don't know what Project Shatterbreed is, well, how can I explain it in a nutshell? It's pretty much these two guys that you see here on the screen. You got on the right-hand side is Leroy, and then the guy in the mask is Marek. And basically you have two soldiers that were part of sort of like this experiment where the Army had a contract with a company called Syntech to develop, the next super soldiers. Syntech got their hands on some kind of special formula. We don't know where they got it from yet, but it allowed them to create these half-breeds of soldiers that would turn into werewolves on command, do their missions, and then revert back. And basically, you have Marek was part of the group, considered an alpha male, along with another alpha male, just had it out. Leroy was sort of like their troop leader. He didn't turn into a werewolf or so. He just kind of like ran the missions and took care of those guys. And so basically what we find out in this first volume is these two alpha males, Marek including one, and you find out who the other guy is later on in subsequent issues, just at each other's throat. Basically, they couldn't have two alpha males or two alphas, so they needed to take one out, and Marek drew the short straw. And basically, they went to kill him, and Marek kind of intervened in this first volume. And basically, you have Marek stuck in half werewolf form because they almost did succeed in killing him, but they escaped. So Marek took him. They landed somewhere in Seattle, and from there, they decided to, use sort of like Marek's superpowers for good and just start becoming these street vigilantes. And while doing this, they actually started to intertwine with Syntech again, who's been chasing them down. So they end up fighting crime on the streets, take this guy in, ends up being the son of a major crime boss in Seattle. And then the whole story ensues from there, and we kind of see how fate is just twisted and kind of just gets them all intertwined with Syntech, this mafia boss, the CIA, everybody's included. So it's pretty cool and it's involved. But it's reminiscent of like a 90s comics, which weren't really heavy into like, too much detail or I don't want to say savviness, but just really straightforward. Like, who the bad guy is, who the good guys are, and you're along for the ride. And the second volume is really fun because we start to include new characters. So 3 mercenaries that are pretty much hired to take these guys out. And it just takes off from there. And then later on, you're going to see even more werewolves coming out of, the woodworks, including the other alpha male that really has an itching and a scratching for Marek because of what he's done to him. So, yeah, it's some really fun stuff. You guys love it. Think like if Punisher was a werewolf. And that's what you have. So, yeah, that's out today. You can check it out. Just go to AmazingActionComics.com. Get some details on there, and it'll shoot you over to the crowdfunding side. We love for you to get this into your hands. So, yeah, we're excited.
Yeah. You nailed it, because when you had me review that, I really enjoyed it, and it was I had read the first Project Shadowbreed miniseries, but sometimes if I pick up a number 1 of a volume 2, I try to like close that part of my brain off and approach it as if I had not read it before, and so you could jump right into this one if you didn't read the first miniseries, and really just have a good time with it. It does harken back to like those old true indie black and white comics from the 80s and 90s, especially when guys who, they didn't really know how many issues they were going to get to do. So they weren't heavy on subplots and seeding things for the future. It's just dive right into the action, tell that story. You got 2 great main characters. Leroy and Marek's interplay is so much fun. And the writing and the art is solid on this. I think it's also got some other good reviews, I think, that we had talked about too.
Yep.
So yeah, folks, you should jump on this. This is really good. It's really fun. And these guys worked really hard at it. And I see the effort that goes into it on all points with you guys putting this together. And this is a really fun comic. And I actually am looking forward to reading the rest of this volume. So
yeah, it's cool. I can't wait. And then Randy Myers, art on it is just like his line work is just really clean and sharp. And it's funny because some people don't like reading black and white, but if you do it really well, it just translates. And I think for what Justin's writing and what we're doing as far as the genre, it just works really, really well. So yeah, check it out. Just if you want to, remember, just go over to AmazingActionComics.com. It did launch today. It's going to be on there for the next 27 days. Actually, you know what? We got 29 days this year.
Oh, right.
It's
an extra.
So you get an extra day off of that. Yeah, check it out. There's some great rewards on there. We got some dog tags, we got some art, shirts, hats, all that good stuff. But the most important thing is being able to get this book into your hands, which would be really cool. All right, so what do we got for you? Oh, I'm reading comments. Black and white comic art tends to be more detailed than their color counterparts. This is from BMD Nerd. Yeah.
Good point. I was actually going to bring that up with one of the books I was going to review. There's sometimes colors can either make or break a comic sometimes, and there are some times where colors I feel can take away from the detail in the artwork. That's why I always liked a bunch of years ago when DC and Marvel had their showcase and essentials, black and white book reprints, because you could really see the strength in the line work, especially like Kirby. Like Kirby was an artist who didn't need a colorist, but there are some other, we could see how the color would enhance that. And yeah, I always do like a good black and white comic. I do sometimes feel like color, can dull some of the details of the art. So that's a good.
Yeah. And on the other side of it too is if it's too detailed, then that's sometimes where the color separation does kind of help. Yep. So just having that fine balance of just the right amount of detail where they can see everything and not have to interpret anything too much, especially when you have to go into your thinking brain when you're reading something, and then you have to go into your thinking brain to kind of figure things out. It can be quite frustrating, but yeah, you're not going to have that problem here. Trust me. They worked at it really, really for a long time, so we're good to go there. Cool. All right. Yeah. So we had our news there for the week. Let's jump into it. We've got 3 books for you this week that we reviewed. John has 2 of them, so I'm going to let him start with the first one, and then I'll kind of like hop in there as the middle part of the sandwich.
All right, very good. So I am going to start with the book that 2 books this week that I reviewed. One I've talked about before because I was looking forward to this ever since I saw the announcement at Comic-Con. So I'm going to save that one for last because there's quite a bit I kind of want to say about that. But the other one I picked up is a new one from Oni Press, which is great because Oni used to be 20 years ago one of the biggest indie companies, and now it's very sporadic, I feel, with Oni. So every time you get something from them, it's usually a nice little treat. The last one was my book of the year last year was Dwelling, so that was also an Oni Press release. So this is Jill and the Killers, and it is written by Olivia Cortero Briggs, illustrated by Roberta Ingranata, colored by Warnia K. Shadawa with Rebecca Nulty, lettered by Haley Rose Lyon, and it is edited by Jasmine Amiri, Desiree Rodriguez, and Megan Brown, and assistant edited by Jung-Hoo Lee. Jeez. So I know you have 3 editors and 1 assistant. So it's just funny. I just see three editors just telling this one assistant what to do. but anyway, so this was actually a really nice surprise. I wasn't sure what to make of this when I was when I started it and when I picked it up, and I just kind of really fell into this. So basically, we have this girl Jill. Her mother, she lives in this town in Arizona called Seligman, Arizona. Her mother was part of the police department, and her mother is about a year or so prior to the comic starting. Her mother, everybody says her mother has disappeared, and she's considered a missing person. But Jill is convinced that her mother is dead. And based on sort of this this nightmare flashback that sort of opens up the book, you get a sense that, okay, maybe Jill was actually there for this incident and might know a little bit more than what everybody else knows, but they're just ignoring her for some reason. So that's mystery number 1 in this book. What happened to Jill's mom? So basically, for about a year, Jill has just shut herself off from her friends. She hasn't gone to school. Her father is sort of keeping her protected because of what happened. And Jill finally says, "Look, I want to get back into my life. I want to go back to school. I want to see my friends." And so it's like right after Thanksgiving break. So she goes back for to finish her senior year in high school. And in that time, all of her friends have sort of moved on. New girl has moved into town and has now sort of become the center of their little group of friends. And I found this is a really cool scene because with things happen so fast now, right? Culture, slang, things like that. They just crop up so fast. So you have this group of high school kids. This one girl hasn't been around for a year, and there's this scene where she's like walking through the halls and she's hearing everybody's conversations and all this new slang that they're using and all these new things that they're talking about. And she's like, she feels like an alien. She doesn't get what they're saying. I was like, oh, that's really cool because that's how I feel as an old man. Like, so I was like, oh, that's really neat to show a teenager feeling like, wow, things move too fast, right? You know, so I thought that was a really neat thing. And basically, as she's reconnecting with her friends, they're like, you know, oh, what murder mystery, true life crime podcasts and shows are you listening to? What murder mystery game are you playing? And she's like, I'm not doing any of this stuff. And so they're like, oh, this is what we're doing now. And so she's like, okay, great. And they find this like monthly subscription box for a murder mystery, interactive murder mystery that they say caters. They tailor it specifically to you, your interests, your location. And so Jill is basically like, to get it back in with her friend, she's like, I'll do it. I'll do this very expensive monthly $200 mystery box just to be in with my friends again, and get back together with my ex-girlfriend, who is obviously really interested in this new girl. So she does it, and literally like that day she gets a package with all of these clues, right? So they think this is the game, and it leads them to this junkyard. And there's a really cool scene, you know, where they're sleuthing around a junkyard, and then the dogs attack, and Jill finds what she thinks is a fake foot. And so they're going through, so they get out of that situation, and they're going through all the evidence and stuff. And then they get the actual box that she ordered. So it turns out the first box that was sent to her was separate from this thing that she ordered. It wasn't the actual legit mystery box.
Right.
And then she realizes there's a clue in there that this box is meant for her mom. And that this first box she got has 2 missing persons cases of high school age boys 5 years apart to the day. And that fake foot that she thought that was a clue planted by the mystery box people that she found in the refrigerator in the junkyard was a real foot. Jesus and that Christ. Revelation scene is great because she's holding it. It's very much like Ben Stiller in Tropic Thunder with Steve Coogan's head, right? And then she realizes it, and it's just a splash page of her passed out with the foot next to her. Like, it was really well done. I thought that bit was great. And so basically this whole mystery starts to really deepen. And in her group of friends, there's one guy. And it is 5 years to the day from the last abduction, and that's sort of the cliffhanger that you're left with in this first issue. So this was really cool, really fun. It reminds me of shows like Veronica Mars, right? Which I've never seen, but I think it's like this, or Buffy without the vampire stuff, like just a group. Scream, right? Yeah, group of high school kids, you know, trying to be high school kids, but also wind up solving a murder. The art is really nice. It's clean. Everything is there. It's the kind of artwork where you kind of breeze through and you're reading, and then a detail comes up later, and you go back and you're like, wow, that detail was in the art the whole time, including something I didn't see initially that was just right there in plain sight. So I thought that lends itself to this mystery aspect. There's like clues throughout this issue as well as, and again, not just by the title, but because Jill and the killers, plural.
Right.
So it's almost like everybody's a suspect in this scenario. So I thought it was really cool. I was really engaged by it. You know, again, I like something that's not necessarily supernatural themed or post-apocalyptic dystopian future. I always feel that's a breath of fresh air. This fell right in line with that. I did feel a little old reading some of the slang, so I think that was good. I think that was intentional, and it really, I thought it conveyed that really well. So yeah, and it's a double-sized and deadly thriller, as it says in the copy. So you get a lot of comic here. It is $6.99, but you get some really nice heavy pages and really solid cardstock cover. So I thought this was very much worth it. I don't know if every issue is going to be double sized, like kind of how Dwellings was, but I am in for the ride here. This was really, really cool. Great art, great story. Colors really work well in this. There's a great scene where they're getting this refrigerator out of because she does tell the police what's going on, and they're getting this refrigerator where the foot came out of. They're lifting it up on like a forklift, and then it opens up and all the body parts dump on all the other cops.
Jesus.
Which is awesome because the cops are just kind of dopey, So it's one of those cases where the kids are going to be, handle it better than the adults, and I'm in for it. I dig it. So yeah, okay. Jill and the Killers from Oni. Give it a shot.
So this is probably one of those where the double-sized issue helped out in regards to world building because you were able to pace it out, and since you have 40 pages instead of 20 or 22 pages, then it's not rushed.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. So yeah, and we spoke about that, in detail last year. We were like, you know what, if you're gonna do something brand new out of a genre that most people don't get or aren't into, then can you get it across in 22 pages? And make it enticing for people to put. I'm pretty sure you can, but I think if you allow yourself those extra 20 pages to kind of breathe and set up, the scenario and set up the world, it just works in your favor. Yeah. I think if the first issue is an oversized issue at $6.99, and then subsequent issues are $3.99 for a regular size issue, I think that works, especially if you can grab people. So, and it sounds like they grabbed you.
Yeah, I really like it.
In all the right places. All right, cool. So you got that. Jill and the Killers from Only Press. Check that out. All right, moving on to me. All right. Ooh, all right. So if you don't know, Dynamite has been on this kick with licenses from Disney. Right now they have their whole Disney villains line, which includes, Hades, Cruella, Mufasa, not Mufasa, his brother. Scar, yeah. And then a bunch more that are, coming down the line. I think in this one, there's an ad actually for Hercules. So I think there's a Heroes line coming down. So it's just weird that it's coming from Dynamite. I can't believe it because we've just been used to looking at boobies all the time, just pages and pages of boobies. But yeah, so big fan of Lilo and Stitch when it first came out in the movies. Then I even went to Disney and did the ride that they had, which was really super cool. I think the whole story behind, Experiment 626 and Lilo that you see here was just absolutely great. Just having this little kid bond with this alien, fall in love and being chased, and it's all about Ohana, so family and stuff like that. So I said, you know what, let me give this a shot because I did enjoy the movie, and I was like, you know what, the movie did a lot in regards to, I guess origin. What the story was going to be about, and then sort of like whatever was in that universe, like literally because they were from another planet. So if you don't know the original story, you've got Stitch, excuse me, it was actually Experiment 626, created by this doctor, I think his name is Jumba something, created him to be just an absolute menace and indestructible on top of that. So wherever he went, all he was just made to do was just destroy everything. And on top of that, he was indestructible. The only weaknesses that he had, do you remember what it was, John?
I actually have never seen it. So
you son of a bitch.
Everything I know about Lilo and Stitch, I know from you now. Oh
my God, you're horrible. So yes, he could not swim. So if he went into water, he would just sink. But he wouldn't die because he's indestructible. He just keep choking to death. And they cut right back. So yeah, mortified. So
he's like a Highlander.
Yeah, exactly. There can only be one. So the whole, the entail, the galactic empire or whatever is trying to find him, and he lands on Earth and finds Lilo, who actually buys him for $2 at a pet shelter, which is hysterical. And she's sort of like an outcast herself, with everyone. So, finding him and having these two outcasts, get to know each other. And, it wasn't like love at first sight because he really destroyed her. And then she actually taught him something about humanity and family. And that's what kind of like turned the tides. And yeah, just a really overall great movie. They win at the end. So basically what this does is expand the world of Lilo and Stitch, which I think is great. You basically have this a robot, sort of like, we're going to call him an enemy because that's what he's going to end up being, called Sovereign. And he has sort of like these two shark robot freaking bodyguards. And basically what he's trying to do is find this experiment 626 so that I guess he can take whatever destruction DNA and put it into the robots so they can become just like Stitch, and then start to go and challenge the Galactic Empire because he wants to take over, I guess, the universe or whatever it is. So they end up going to where the old doctor's place was, and then from there they find out that he's actually on Earth, and then they head over to Earth, and then you have this whole little like scenario between Lilo, Stitch, the alien that was originally supposed to capture Stitch, and the doctor. They're playing these water balloon fights and stuff like that. And it kind of just sets up sort of like how they're like family now and how the sister's always worried all the time. And then there was like this FBI agent, which was, what's his name? I'm going to say Vince Vaughn, but that's incorrect. Ving Rhames. Just big black dude. You could just hear it in his voice as the FBI agent who is actually monitoring the sister and knowing that that was an alien and whatever ensued from there. But he ended up becoming part of the family at the end of the movie as well. So basically you have these aliens land. They're trying to take Stitch, and Lilo's hopping in there. And then, so the only part that I got confused at, and I had to go back over and over, because it actually takes place in Hawaii first. So there's like a little caption. You go from Planet Turo, which is where the Sovereign guy is at, and then you go to Hawaii, which is Kauai. So they're on the island of Kauai. And it has it on the top where the place is, right there. Look at that. Big. Kauai. And at the very end of this, when they take Stitch, they bring him up into space. But he kind of escapes and then jumps out of the spaceship and doesn't land back in Kauai. He lands in some city. And you can tell because the buildings are different in that respects. And then I missed the fact that Lilo had gotten into a spaceship herself, which is the alien spaceships from the doctor and the other guy. And they all got in there to go and track Stitch in the city. And the only reason why I knew that they was in the city is at the very end of this. It kind of sets up the Manhattan Comic-Con kind of thing. So they're supposed to be in New York. So after he jumped out of the spaceship, that's where he landed. And there wasn't anything on top in regards to where the location was. So that's where I got confused, because the coloring and sort of like the layouts are really similar across. So the whole color palette, I mean, it's a beautiful looking book. And it kind of reminds me of the animation style that they used for the movie, which is great. This was written by Greg Pak, who's written a ton of stuff for the Big Two, even his own independent stuff. I read the John Wick series. I think it was a 5-issue miniseries that was pretty cool. And then I think he had a run on Vader as well that I read that was pretty cool. As far as the artist, I'm going to say that's Julia Giacomino, because I was going to say Gulia, but that probably is not right. Sorry, I butchered your name, Julia. And then letters by Jeff Eckleberry. And then a really cool cover by Joshua Middleton. Like, he does some really great stuff. And his art is, it's funny because he could do really good style, like sort of like an animated. He could do like a painted style. He had a really solid run on these Wonder Woman covers that were just absolutely beautiful. And then funny, development editor and cultural consultant, Moana McAdams. So I guess there's some Polynesian stuff in there. So I guess the consultant came in handy on that. And the package editor is Nate Cosby. Yeah, you know what? To expand the world on Lilo and Stitch, I think was really cool, solid. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a mini. So if they go along this way with continuing with the story, I think I'm going to hang on board with it. Because I mean, I really enjoyed the movie and being able to expand that world. I kind of saw the challenge of what it would be, because the movie ended sort of like happily. Like, what are you going to do from there? So having that protagonist actually, is a really cool idea. So yeah, if you're a fan of Lilo and Stitch, check it out. If you have kids, they'll absolutely love it. I'm just a big kid, so I love it.
I'm just a child. I'm a childless weirdo. So I think the last Disney movie I actually took it upon myself to go see by myself was Tarzan, for the obvious reason.
What was that, 90 something?
The Phil Collins music, 99. No, I know I didn't go for the Phil Collins. I went.
That's a quarter of a century.
That's the last time I went to see a Disney movie by myself. I don't know if I've seen a. What did we see? We saw the Tim Burton Cinderella live action.
I know that.
The one with Johnny Depp.
Cinderella?
Was it Cinderella?
No,
not Cinderella. What was the Alice in Wonderland?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Sorry. Blonde Disney character that goes on an adventure.
You weren't even close.
So, yes, we saw that one in the theater, me and my wife. But no, I just, you know what? I just, I even as a kid, I was a little ishy on the Disney stuff. I loved Peter Pan, Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I always thought Donald was cool, even though he didn't wear pants. But yeah, I was never really a Disney kid.
I have a girl, so I've seen every single one of the Disney movies.
So my wife loves the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion is her absolute favorite thing, and I've seen both of those movies, those live action movies.
Wait, so you saw the recent one?
We did watch the recent one, yeah.
And she liked it?
It was good. We liked it.
Okay, let's move on. Next book, please.
If you like Owen Wilson going, wow, there's ghosts.
It's all about Rosario Dawson.
So yeah. Just I'm not a big Disney guy, but I'm glad you are. I really am.
Yeah, it's all good. All right, last book. Here we go.
Okay, this is the book that I was really looking forward to, and a lot of other people were too when it was announced at New York Comic Con. It is from Image, and the imprint is Mad Solar, and it is Kid Cudi presents Moon Man. So for those who may or may not know, Kid Cudi is a hip hop artist. One of the few that I newer ones or modern ones that I happen to like. He has an album called Man on the Moon, which I think is actually quite brilliant. There's a very good musical quality to that. It's not just lyrical rhymes.
Ground control to Tom. Yeah, sorry.
It's all right. And so this is actually the script is credited to his given names, Scott Mescudi and Kyle Higgins. Kyle Higgins is the writer of Radiant Black and is also one of the writers on the Deep Cut 6-issue miniseries chronicling jazz in America. It is illustrated by Marco Locati, colored by Igor Monti, lettered by the ubiquitous Hassan Otsmani Allahu, edited by Michael Busatil, and then production credit to Wesley Griffith. So this is something that I liked it.
There was a side there.
It is a double-sized first issue at $3.99, so that's really cool. There is definitely this is definitely Scott Mescudi's first comic that he's ever written. You can tell he's a fan. And you could also tell that Kyle Higgins was there to support and not do any of the heavy lifting. So you basically have two really great characters that you're following. This guy named Ramon and his younger brother Micah. Ramon is an astronaut who is on a mission to go back to the moon after 50 years, which is crazy because that's really what we're working on again right now, and in the real world. Not you and I, just NASA.
Correct.
In general. And so something happens to the four of them where it is stated, as far as they're concerned, they just went off the grid, off the radar, off of everything for about 7 minutes. But there's a throwaway line in the middle of the book that they were actually gone for years.
Hmm.
And it's one of those things where it's just thrown out there, but it's never really expanded on.
Hmm.
And there's a couple like little beats and moments in here where I don't know if you've ever noticed this in your reading, but in a first issue, things kind of happen very fast. They're establishing, and so there's certain beats that come through. Sometimes they're a little abrupt, and then it's like in the second or third issue, they'll kind of like go back and talk about it to sort of clarify. Sometimes they can use the second or third issue to sort of clean up some of the rushed in the first just to get the story moving. And I get that. So I'm kind of hoping that's what we're going to see here because I thought that was a very important plot point if that's the case, because it's the younger brother saying it to the older brother. And to me, it wasn't clear were they actually, they thought they were gone for 7 minutes, but they were actually missing for years? Or is his brother talking about the fact that because of the years of training and the mission and then having to come back and debrief for 4 weeks, that all told Ramon hasn't been in Micah's life for years? So I don't know if that was because it was in an argument that they were having. So right. I don't know. So I'm hoping for a little more clarification on that, because everybody else kind of blows over that. No one else really brings that up. So basically after the mission, like I said, they're isolated. They kind of have to go through a whole debriefing before they're allowed to go back. So Ramon goes back home to his brother Micah. Their parents are dead. And Micah is going to a protest against the Janus Company, or the Janus Company, and this is actually the company that sent these astronauts to the moon and caused these problems. So that court sort of has them butt heads, right? Ramon and Micah. And then while Micah is at the protest turns violent. Ramon is trying to reach him. He can't. And in a fit of desperation, Ramon puts on a spacesuit and basically dive bombs into the protest and fights the cops to keep them away from the protesters. And it is a really cool, amazing sequence with just some amazing colors and design and a lot of kinetic energy, right? But now this is what we're talking about here. The colors are great. And there's a few of these. There's some really gorgeous 2-page spreads throughout this with the color work is just amazing and fantastic. But because of the line style, it kind of muddies the detail on the artwork. And the transition from him being like, I got to go do something, right? To being there is very abrupt. So that was like a big hang up for me. I said, wow, this really happened so fast and it is so intense, but I'm having a tough time really telling, exactly what's going on. So the dialogue is very helpful, especially in the next scene, to sort of explain that, because Mike is like, you can fly. How can you fly? And Ramon's like, well, it's not really flying. It's more like I just shift, from one space to another. And I'm like, okay, that helps, So, so I thought it was a really, really good setup. It's a really, really good hook. Really, really cool, relatable characters with Ramon and Micah. And I really kind of want to see where this goes, because I think, Kid Cudi, Scott Mescudi is a really good, artist, and he loves this stuff, and it really shows in the book. And you're really kind of taken in by Ramon's journey, especially as at the end of the book, when he's just standing outside his house, just shouting to the stars, like, what did you do to me? What do you want from me? I thought was a really cool sort of existential moment that we all sort of go through, right? So I'm going to really give this a high recommendation. Moonman #1 from Image Comics. It is a 4-issue miniseries. There's also, apparently, there's a soundtrack that Kid Cudi produced to go with the content. I know you're not a big fan with that. I like that though, but I just read it without the soundtrack. But I'm gonna try and give it another reread with the soundtrack just to see.
Because I think what was We Live was one of the first ones to do that, and then there was the other one with the kids in a record shop at the
What's the
post-apocalyptic.
furthest place from here?
Yeah, but
The other one, the
two quick
Radio
things,
Apocalypse one, that
yeah, that was
never's going to
another one.
finish out. Yeah,
It's not going to finish out.
Yeah, it's not.
All right, so two quick things. One, BMD Nerd, what he said, wait, Kid Cudi. Yes, that Kid Cudi.
Yes.
And then two, all right, so if we're looking at, because you did sigh, when you sigh, I know something's up. And so we have somebody who's actually a fan. And one of the things that people need to understand is that we'll never shit on anything, right?
Yeah.
Because as creators, we know the whole process of what it takes to actually produce a book, from the writing to the drawing to the laying out to getting it out there. And sometimes when you have a vision in your head, it can land. And sometimes it could be a miss. And with everything that we read, oftentimes, you know, when we read people who are already well versed in the comic universe, that's sort of like that template already in our head. And then all of a sudden we get somebody who's brand new to it. We can see certain beats are missing or certain things that we're already used to. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I think sometimes if somebody's trying to shake things up, those beats that are missing could be something different that they're trying to accomplish. Or it could just be beats are missing in our respects. So if it's something that kind of like takes you out of it, or you have to flip back and forth on a page, and this is just me thinking out loud, because, you know, as somebody who enjoys the process of making comics, the last thing I want somebody to do is flip through 4 pages of trying to figure out what the hell is going on in that respects. So in that sense, because they're new to this, they're a fan of this, do you feel like it took you out of it, or do you feel like it was just something different than what you used to reading?
No, it definitely didn't take me out of it. In fact, it caused me to pay more attention, right? And to really focus and to really just dive into the gorgeous artwork, right? And I think it's more of a case of, you know, again, trial and error and trying to find your rhythm as a storyteller, because you have because the music he does is storytelling, and it's a specific rhythm. Right. And comics is a different rhythm. And so I think it's trying to find that. And, you know, and I have to say that as far as the pacing of the story and the flow as I was reading it, this was a lot easier of a flow to get into this was sort of, Jill was a little bit of a stutter for me because of all the slang that was put in. This for me was there was just a couple abrupt transitions, which happens in comics all the time, right? So for me, it was a situation where this had extra pages and it used it to give room to breathe. This had extra pages and it used it to just power through the narrative. Gotcha. Does that make sense?
Yep.
This wanted to get to a certain point by the end of the first issue, whereas this wanted to lay out a lot of the groundwork and the clues, right? So they're two very different stories. Right. This reminds me a lot of something like Grant Morrison, Final Crisis. Grant Morrison gave an interview about Final Crisis really quick where he said, I cared less about the connecting threads and more about the big moments. And it shows in that work. That there's the big moments are fantastic, but the things between the big moments, I just got to get through it. I want to get to the big moment, and this is a book of big moments. But that being said, some of the quieter moments, the relationship between Micah and Ramon, Ramon's relationship with the other astronauts, those did also get to shine through and were high points as well as of the book.
Okay. All right. So then definitely worth a read, right?
Oh, absolutely. All
right. So Moon Man from Image Comics. Check it out. All right. So there you go. You have your 3 books. You got Jill and the Killers from Oni Press. You've got Lilo and Stitch, believe it or not, from Dynamite Comics. And then you've got yourself Moon Man from Image Comics off of there. So just one last mention. Our campaign did go live today. So if you want to check it out, see what's on there, show some love and support, go to amazingactioncomics.com and there'll be a link on there that takes you right to the campaign itself. As always, if you like what you're hearing, just click subscribe to the podcast. Better yet, tell 100 of your friends so they can come and enjoy it as well. If you're a creator and want to come on to the show, or you just want to talk about comics, amazingactioncomics.com/podcast, fill out the form. John and I would love to have you on. We're actually lining up some guests now. I think we have about 2 or 3 coming up. So probably towards the middle of February, end of February, you'll start to see those kick in. Make sure that you stay up to date on everything that we got going on at AmazingActionComics.com, because Red Hyena is also coming out very shortly, and we're really excited about that. It's a second epic journey, which is really, really cool. And Julian Derber, who's based out of the UK, just so solid, man. I mean, he's grown as an artist in regards to just not just his line work, but just, you know, his panel layouts and stuff like that. So really excited for that to come your way as well. Make sure that you always, please support your local comic shops, because without them, we would not be doing what we are doing today, and we would not be able to read the stuff that we love to read. John, where do you get your comics from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And I got to say something, man. We really go out of our way to make sure that we have these books for people. Moonman, definitely the demand kind of hit us by surprise. So we definitely did not have enough going into Wednesday as of Tuesday. But boy, Len was on it. He got enough copies for the shelf so that when we opened on Wednesday, we had them and people were snapping them up. So that's one of the great things about your local comic shop. They will listen to you and they will respond and they will make sure that you are satisfied. So if you're not in the New Jersey area, make sure you find your localist nearest comic shop and patronize them because, boy, local comic shops, they bust their ass every day to make sure that people have the 4-color crack that they are craving.
Hell yes. Well, you know, to leave you satisfied with a happy ending.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. All right, kiddos. Until next time, or until next week, please be amazing, stay amazing, and whatever you do, read something amazing.